Hello guys, me again. I'm going to be doing a video today on Nazi policies towards the youth. Two things today. Firstly, shout out. I'm going to do it to my former pupils at Jubilee High School. You're in year 11 now, time flies. Hope you're revising hard and doing well, and good luck, and I'll see you at prom. Second is the giveaway. I'm going to do a giveaway today. Now, the first person, or pupil, to come and tell me the other name for the Edelweiss Pirates and where they were called this gets a free chocolate bar. So the first person to tell me the alternate name for the Edelweiss Pirates and the places they were called it will get a chocolate bar. So, Nazi policies towards the youth is an important thing to understand because the Nazis really prioritise the youth because they see them as the future. The 1,000-year Reich is what Hitler and the Nazis are planning. They think this is going to last for generations and generations and generations. So they prioritise and spend a lot of money controlling the youth. How do they do that? Well, there's several ways to control the youth. Firstly and foremost is the education system. They reshape the education system completely and change the curriculum. Firstly, teachers have to be part of the Nazi Teachers Union or be Nazis themselves. So there's one way to regulate teachers is to pressure them on what they can and cannot teach. Another way is textbooks and the curriculum, what you can and can't teach children. The school day starts at 8 with a heavy emphasis on subjects such as history, where you would learn how Germany was stabbed in the back and how Germany and the Aryans were, are the pure humans around the world. In biology and science, you'll learn about eugenics and how Aryans are superior as people. You learn a little bit about social Darwinism, that kind of thing. Sports would be a heavy, large subject at school, so you do a lot of sporting activities, teamwork, working together, running, cross-country, all of these activities you do at school. Schools also sometimes have to have farms where you learn to grow your own food. So that's some way that they would control the youth, is through the education system. Jewish children were excluded and they weren't allowed to play with other children. Sometimes they'd be not taught with other Aryan children. So that's not a very nice aspect to it. And even measuring the noses happened in some schools, so it wasn't very nice. And from an early age, children were taught by their teachers, how great Germany is, how great the Nazis are. Trust in the Nazis. Adolf Hitler is the main man to really put your faith in, because they understand that teachers in schools have a huge impact and influence on children. Still to this day they do. So don't forget that, kids. So ultimately, that's one aspect of how the Nazis control the youth in Germany, is to control the education of the youth. Right, youth movements, sort of like the Scouts and the Guides and the Cubs. Well, these are banned in Germany, and the only one you're allowed to be part of is the Hitler Youth. Now, the Hitler Youth is an umbrella term for Hitler Jugend, the League of German Maidens, which is the girls' equivalent. And you had to be part of the Hitler Youth. Now, I did a bit of research on this because some people say it's 1936, but it's actually 1939. You had to be part of the Hitler Youth by 1939. But we'll come back to compulsory membership of the youth service. Now, what was the Hitler Youth? If we take it in general umbrella terms, the Hitler Youth was to get children indoctrinated, brainwashed into thinking the Nazis are superior, and get them ready for war. We'll come to the girls' aspect in a minute, but the boys were, drilled in military marching, how to charge with bayonets, how to fix bikes, search for scrap metal, how to clean guns and how to fire them, and map skills. So it does a lot of skills that you'd have to teach soldiers in basic training. They already have. So it gets them used to warfare, or the idea of war being a good thing. Girls also were expected to be physically very fit. They had to be able to swim 100 meters, run, be able to throw. But the aim really for children or girls is to focus on childbearing, how to cook meals, how to look after the family. So that's their focus. Indeed, their education at school was focused mainly on social sciences, get them ready for motherhood and be able to cook. So the Hitler Youth system was an extremely large part of controlling children. By 1936, there's 4 million members of the Hitler Youth, which is huge. And by 1938, that swelled to over 7 million people. Now, by 1939, when it became compulsory, the war was starting to begin, and a lot of the older members of the Hitler Youth had graduated, to coin a phrase, to become members of the armed forces or the SS. So the running of the Hitler Youth really was taken over by older children who were slightly more zealous and really enforced rules rigidly. Another way that Hitler Youth is important is it kind of creates a bit of a disparity, a bit of a disconnect, between the youth, children, and their parents who weren't as committed to the Nazis as maybe children were. Children are easy to brainwash, on average, and on the whole, So whilst they might not, they fully accept that Hitler is their true loyalty loves to Hitler, parents would not necessarily show that, and so children would not understand that quite so much. So the Hitler Youth and education are important to remember. Now, there are some oppositions to the Hitler Youth. It doesn't go entirely according to plan. There were some exceptions. The Edelweiss Pirates, or the Roving Dudes, as they were called in Essen. The Edelweiss Pirates was an umbrella term given to a lot of different groups of mainly working class children, roughly at the ages of 14, 17, which sprung up in a lot of different cities, specifically, of course, during the war. Now, the Edelweiss Pirates weren't necessarily ideologically opposed to the Nazis, they just didn't really want to be part of, they didn't want to be controlled by the Youth. They sang songs, danced, did marches, went camping, in a very similar way to the Hitler Youth, but they mocked them and occasionally would beat them up. That was all well and good until the war started, when they became a bit of a thorn in the Nazis' side. They didn't want to kill the Edelweiss or imprison them, the Edelweiss Pirates, because they were considered Aryan children. So it wasn't until 1944 when the Edelweiss Pirates assisted in the bombing of a Gestapo headquarters, and they were known to look after escaped prisoners, that the the SS and the Gestapo decided to take action. They publicly hung 12 leaders of the Edelweiss Pirates in November 1944. The other group who opposed the Nazis were the Swing Youth. The Swing Youth were composed of mainly middle-class children, who again didn't want to be constrained and restricted to what the Hitler Youth was offering them. They listened to jazz music, openly talked about sex and engaged in it. They allowed Jews into their group, and they mocked the Nazis in the fact that they didn't really want to be part of it. None of them were necessarily killed, and a lot of these members were eventually drafted into the Hitler Youth. Case in point, Hans Scholl, who was a member of the White Rose movement. When we look at resistance, the Hans and Sophie Scholl is important. A lot of children were members of the Hitler Youth without really wishing to be part of it, and many realised that they had to be part of the Hitler Youth to graduate, get certificates and get a job. So Hans Scholl, for example, was a member of the Hitler Youth, even though he later became one of the leaders of the White Rose movement. So whilst it was compulsory for most children to be part of the Hitler Youth, not all of them engaged and ultimately were brainwashed to the extent that we sometimes think they were. So there we go, Hitler Youth, social policies towards the youth. Learn it, revise it, and do well in it. Okay. Speak soon.